Hello, everyone. My name is Roman, and today we're going to be starting our journey into microeconomics. We're going to be starting then with Unit 1, Basic Economic Concepts, following the AP curriculum. So, topic 1.1 focuses on scarcity. Okay, so what is economics? Economics is the science of scarcity. Scarcity being unlimited wants but limited resources, meaning that there's always going to be one more thing or one more desire that we can have, one more thing that we can think of that we want, but there's obviously a fixed and limited number of resources. So that's going to force us to make choices, so that way we can decide on how we want to use those resources to match our unlimited desires. So in that sense, economics could be seen as the study of choices. And in economics, we look at a lot of individuals, firms, and governments, especially in microeconomics. We can add individuals, individual firms, individual markets, and some government actions on those things. So some examples of just the choice aspect of this is, if you might have to choose between buying jeans or buying shoes. Make it a little more complex. Businesses might have to choose how many people to hire or who to hire. Governments do have to choose how much money to spend on welfare, among many other things. Now, a textbook definition of economics is, as seen here, a social science concerned with the efficient use of scarce resources to achieve maximum satisfaction of economic wants, aka study of how individuals and societies deal with scarcity. Okay, so micro versus macroeconomics. Some definitions here. As the name implies, micro deals with small economic units, individuals, firms, markets. Macroeconomics deals with the study of the large economy as a whole, or economic aggregates. Economic aggregates, just think of it as just bigger economic units, as micro deals with small economic units, macro deals with large economic units. So, how are economics actually used? So, you have to think of economics as a science, because that's essentially what it is. And just as in science, you have your scientific method where you develop a hypothesis, come up with a test to test your hypothesis, carry out the experiment, then you look back on your results, you make your conclusions, you might retest, publish results, so on. Same concepts here. Okay, so economists use a scientific method to make generalizations and abstractions to develop theories. This is called theoretical economics. It's a pretty logical name. This is just almost like the first half of that scientific method here, where we're just looking at the theoretical aspects of it. It's more abstract. But those abstractions then are used to actually fix and apply, are applied to fix real world problems and to meet real world economic goals. And that's policy economics. Okay, so moving to positive versus normative. Positive statements are based on fact and avoids value judgment, and normative statements include value judgment. So the main key difference here is the value judgment. Value meaning what it is, what do I value versus what do you value versus what does someone else value. So what it is versus what it ought to be. We have 5 examples here. The first one, the rising price of crude oil on the world markets will lead to an increase in gas prices. So because we're seeing that even though it's a prediction about the future, there's still no value judgment. There's no personal input of personal values. It's all just based on what is, and therefore it's positive. Number 2, a rise in average temperatures will likely increase the demand for sunscreen products. Again, we're looking into the future here. We're making a prediction. We don't technically know if our prediction is going to come true, but that's not what it's really about here. It's really about the value judgment. Does it or does it not have any value judgment of personal values, personal inputs here? And this one does not, which is why it again is positive. Number 3, pollution is the most serious economic problem. So does this one have any personal input, personal values, value judgments in here? It does. I might think pollution is the most serious. You might think inflation is the most serious. Depending on if I care more about the environment, you care more about the spending power of the dollar. So it comes down to that value judgment here with the most serious economic problem, which is why that one's normative. All right, number 4, The government should ban smoking in public places. Again, this is taking into account to someone's personal preference. Do you think you should ban smoking in public? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. It's normative. You're inputting your value of how you feel about smoking. All right, and lastly, number 5, unemployment is more harmful than inflation. Again, we kind of talked about something like this with number 3. I might think unemployment is more harmful. You might think inflation is more harmful. Depends on what aspect you consider to be more valuable to you, which is why this is normative. It's really dealing with that value judgment here. All right, 5 key economic assumptions. So in economics, we have to make these assumptions just to understand what we're talking about and keep our conversations constant here. So 1, scarcity exists. Society has unlimited wants and limited resources. Number 2, due to scarcity, we have to make choices. Those choices, have costs that we call trade-offs. Number 3, every goal is to make choices that maximize their satisfaction, meaning that everyone's going to act in their own self-interest. And this is important. It's not that people are selfish. We're not saying that everyone's selfish. We're just saying that everyone is self-interested. We're all always trying to better what we have in ourselves. And we're going to see it's not about being selfish. In economics, we are not selfish. Instead, we are self-interested. Number 4, everyone makes decisions by comparing the marginal costs and marginal benefits of every choice. So marginal just means additional. Marginal, additional. So you can even just replace the word additional, like in this sentence right here, comparing the additional costs and additional benefits of every choice. Meaning for each choice you make, there's going to be additional costs from that specific choice. There's going to be additional benefits from that specific choice. And it's comparing those additional costs and those additional benefits or marginal cost benefits of that specific choice. And number 5, real life situations can be explained and analyzed through simplified models and graphs, which we're going to deal with a lot of graphs in microeconomics. All right, economic terminology. Getting down a few words here: utility equals satisfaction. Sometimes you might hear about utils. Utils is kind of like a satisfaction unit. Marginal, as we just discussed, means additional, and to allocate is to distribute. All right, price versus cost. So just a little more vocab here. And this is dealing with words that we use a little more interchangeably in day-to-day life, but have specific meanings here in economics. So when we talk about price, we're talking about how much the buyer or the consumer is paying for something. And then the cost is the amount the seller pays to produce that good. All right, investment. So an investment is the money that a business is going to spend to improve their production, such as spending money on a new factory. Consumer goods. So consumer goods are created for direct consumption, like pizza. I buy the pizza, I eat the pizza, direct consumption. And then capital goods are created for indirect consumption. So essentially they make other goods, like an oven. An oven makes the pizza, and then the pizza is the consumer good that I then directly consume. So again, capital goods essentially are goods that make other goods. All right, 4 factors of production. Number 1, land. So let's say I am a farmer and I'm farming corn. Okay, so land is all the natural resources that are used to produce the goods and services. And all these examples actually would apply here if I'm farming corn: the water, the sun, the plants, the animals, all examples of land. Number 2, labor. So labor is essentially just work. It's any effort a person devotes to a task for which that person is paid. So this would be my actual act of farming. Number 3 is capital. So capital gets split up into 2 categories here: physical and human capital. Physical capital is the human-made resources that are used to create other goods and services. So this would be like the tractor that I would use to do the farming with. The human capital is the skills and knowledge that I have, that I would gain from education and experience. So this would be my know-how of how to farm, of what to plant, where to plant, why to plant it there, or why not to plant it there, and so on. And then the 4th one is really just a combination of these 3. Sometimes you might see it just as these 3 factors of production, but I like to include the 4th one here, which is entrepreneurship, which is people that are willing to risk a lot in order to combine the other 3 all in the goal of obtaining profit. And profit is revenue minus cost, revenue being all the money that you generate, cost being what it costs you to generate that money. All right, productivity is what we're going to end with here. Productivity is the measure of efficiency that shows the number of outputs per unit of input. So an example here, Bob can make 10 pizzas in an hour, Stan can make 5 pizzas in an hour. Bob's more productive. Makes sense? We're looking at the same unit of input right here, 1 hour of time. Bob has literally double the amount of output, 10 pizzas, as opposed to Stan's 5 pizzas. So why would businesses and countries want to improve their productivity? It all relates back to scarcity. Scarcity being that we have the unlimited wants and limited resources. So if we have a limited amount of resources, we have this infinite amount of desires. We're of course going to want to be as productive as possible, getting the most essentially bang for our buck with everything that we do in order to provide the most and meet the most needs and wants that we can. All right, that wraps that up. Hope you enjoyed, and see you next time.